Hey guys, this is Bradford from My Easy Monogram. I have been getting some questions, people new to designing metal art, needing some general pointers on where to begin. So I thought I'd put together a few videos. This will be the first video of the series where I'm going through best tips, tricks, and practices for creating metal art monogram designs, in designing it in such a way that we can expect a good result on the manufacturing side. So just to pull some ideas, some inspiration, I've just looked online, metal art monogram. I'm never a big proponent of exactly copying anybody's design, so I'm not going to preach that today. But we can still pull some inspiration. One of the ones that I want to start off with first is let's go with this pilot. This pilot monogram. It's got an airplane, it's got some clouds, some trees, and a name across the bottom. So we can see there's obviously a lot of variations out there for this, but first, I'm going to start with what I call the foundation of this design. In Adobe Illustrator, I'm going to create a new file. Um, just to clarify, this is going to be a Adobe Illustrator tutorial. So if you don't have Adobe Illustrator, I would really recommend that you get it. Some people use Canva, and that's fine too. I'm not very familiar with Canva, so I can't teach that. Everything that I teach here is going to be for Illustrator. So I'm going to start with a 12 by 12 inch artboard, not pixels, inches. So that way we can design things to scale for the minimum monogram size, which is 12 inches. So I'm going to create that. And just very quickly, I'm going to start with the circle. Um, this is what I would probably call the foundation of the monogram. You'll scale that to 12 by 12 inches. And I'm going to center it in the art space on the artboard. I'm going to create another circle. And let's make this 11. Again, I'm going to center this in space so that once I take the two and I select this option here, click to minus front. So I'm going to fill this just for reference. I've got two circles here. One's blue, one is red. We can see that here. One is blue and the other one is red. Now, the red is on top of the blue, also known as in front of the blue. So when I select both of them and I say minus front, I'm left with just that blue ring. I look here, it looks just like a little ring. So that's the foundation of the design. We go back to here, we can see, obviously there's that ring. Um, the next point is going to be the banner across the middle. So let's go back to Illustrator. I'm gonna grab a rectangle tool and right about here, I'm gonna draw that rectangle. Um, and I want to design it in such a way that the typical name that you'd fit in that space um, fits properly. For example, if my bar is that tall, the fonts could be very small. And if I'm wanting somebody to just put a name, that's like 7 or 8 characters, it wouldn't take up the space very well. Um, so I'm going to increase the size here. Um, and I'm going to grab my direct selection tool, the white arrow. Actually, I need to add an anchor point. It'll let me. There's delete anchor point. I need to add anchor point. So I'm gonna add an anchor point there in the middle and right there in the middle. Now when I grab my direct selection tool and go in sideways with it, you see we're kind of creating that banner look. I always like to count how many clicks in. So shift, right arrow, 1, 2, 3. So that way I know when I go to this side is shift, left arrow, 1, 2, 3. So now I know that I'm symmetrical. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this down a little bit in the space that I have. And I can go ahead and merge these two shapes together now. So let me go ahead and click to unite, just like so. And I don't want that little gap down at the bottom. So again, grabbing that direct selection tool, if I select that path and I hit delete twice, I've just gotten rid of that area. Um, Another thing to keep in mind is mounting holes. So at 12 inches, I like to keep my mounting holes no smaller than 0.1875. That's 3/16 of an inch, but you can also do 0.125, which is an eighth inch. I'm going to remove the stroke. I'm going to change this fill back to white so we can see it a little bit easier. And I'm going to put it in the center. And I'm going to set my Y to 0.5, or I'm sorry, 0.25. So I know I'm in the center of that space. The reason I know that was 0.25 is because the outer circle was 12 inches. The inner circle was 11 inches. So that's a half inch per side. Half of that is 0.25. Just a little bit of math that you get a little bit more accustomed to it and a little bit more familiar with it as you go. But I'm going to copy and paste that circle because I want to add a hole down at the bottom as well. So that's going to be 11.75. Okay, so we've got these two mounting holes now. If I select both of them, so I'm going to click this one and shift click here and hit Control 8. I just made those one entity, one compound path. Let me go back to that. So it used to be this ellipse and that ellipse for the top and the bottom. If I select both of them, hit Control 8, now it's a compound path. And if I select both of these, do minus front again, boom, now we only have that one compound path. So from here, I would save this as is. Actually, I take that back. This here is a sharp outside edge. I typically like to break those a little bit. So I would grab here, shift click here, shift click here, and shift click here, holding down shift the whole time. I'm going to pull that in just a little bit, and that's just going to add a little bit of a radius so that we don't have sharp edges on the outside of the sign. All right, so I'm going to save this as just do example 1. And okay, so the reason I saved this as example 1 and I saved it at this point is because you might find that the same core design is used across many designs on somebody else's store. So if I do, for example, this design and this design here across the top, also this one here, they're the same ring with the same text, maybe different fonts, but it's just a ring, outer ring and an inner ring, and then the plane's in the middle. So instead of you going through and redesigning those two rings every time, I would save those into a base design template section, something that you can just open it up and throw something in the middle. Boom, you've got a new sign already done. It takes, 30-40% of the design work out of the equation for you. So let me pop out of this site real quick and go back to here. Let me see if I can find a better example. So this one looks pretty similar in the ring and the banner as this one does. So that just kind of helps me further illustrate my point that, the same core design could be used in very different ways just by what different things you put inside of this circle. So again, once I get to this point, I typically would save this out so that I can use that in the future as well. But we're going to follow through, finish this one all the way. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to come up with that airplane um, and the mountains and the clouds. So I'm going to go clouds SVG and just want to find some clouds that I like. And I might not find the exact clouds that I like for the sake of just quickly getting through this video, but we'll see what we can do. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste that into Illustrator. Now I'm going to go to image trace and I'm going to select silhouettes. All right, so that just gave me a bunch of silhouettes of the clouds. I'm going to expand this and I'm going to ungroup it. So I've got a bunch of clouds. Sorry, I'm going to get my selection tool. See, maybe I like this cloud and this cloud and this cloud. The rest of these clouds, I'm going to move off on the side. And I'm just going to play with these in space. Maybe I'm going to shrink this guy down just a little bit. Like this. And then maybe put him there. I'm going to come into this. I'm going to grab my eraser tool. And I'm just going to erase where the two are overlapping. All right, so maybe something like this. Again, you can play with this however you see fit. Just doing this, like I said, quick and easy for the video. So now I can select all of these clouds and I want to unite them all. So that just batched them into a group. And now if I go to unite all of this, now the clouds are a part of the design. And to see how that looks, once I get rid of all of these clouds and Control 0 brings me back to here, you can see I'm left with one compound path. That means that there's nothing else in this design except for what I've created. So now I need to go through and add a airplane. Let's go with a airplane SVG. And let's find something creative. Again, just to pull back from the original is a prop plane. So I can say prop plane SVG. And let's look at this guy. I think that I think that is pretty decent. Um, let's see real quick if there's another one I would prefer. Yeah, I'm gonna do this one just for the sake of making an example. I don't necessarily like this one better, but I'm going to copy and paste that in. I'm bringing it off to the side just to work with it a little bit easier. I'm going to scale this up to 12 inches and I'm going to do the image trace again. Let's do silhouettes. So we can see, there's some issues with the geometries when doing that. So I'm going to refine it by increasing my threshold a little bit. Or maybe I'm going to go lower on my threshold. You just got to kind of play with it. There's not necessarily any right or wrong. Okay, I'm going to thicken this up to right here, and then I'm going to expand that. I'm also going to ungroup everything because this we need to throw away, this we need to throw away. And see, once I move this over to the side, we see all this stuff that's not connected. That's all trash. I'm going to get rid of it as well. So looking at this design, there's, this line across the top isn't very clean. I'd like to clean that up, and I'd also like to clean up the prop area a little bit. So, and then also like this little area here on the tire. These are all things I wouldn't really consider to be good geometry. So I'm going to go in with a paintbrush. Actually, first, I'm going to go in with the eraser, and I'm going to clean up all of these details just to get a little bit closer to the geometries that I want. Um, I'm going to use my eraser to give me a fatter line here. And probably going to give myself a little bit fatter line here. Okay, so now I can grab my paintbrush tool, increase my brush size just a little bit, and go across the front. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that. Sorry, some of these things take a little bit of finesse that I don't want to bore you with on this video. Here the front of that tire a little bit, and the front of this tire as well. This line is going to be pretty thin, so I want to add a little bit of meat to that, or else the laser could very easily melt that. And we do the same right here. Again, I'm going to do this across the top. Just like that. And I want to get rid of this little line because that's just going to be a little shard of metal. It doesn't really add anything to the design. I'm also going to catch that. All right. So let's say that's the plane that we want. If you look at it, it's a bunch of paint paths. And so we really want to clean all of that up into one vector file. So I'm going to do edit. I'm sorry. I'm going to do, where's that? Rasterize. I'm going to leave that transparent and okay. And now I'm going to do image trace again, silhouettes, and expand. All right, so we just cleaned up that geometry. Now I can go ahead and bring it into here. Let's see. I'm going to do a downward angle on it. Increase its size to like 10. And let's say that's maybe how I want to leave it. I know that I'm going to be in front of these clouds. So I do want to clip here. I'm going to clean all this up. That. Edge up just a little bit better. All right, so now we've got that plane sitting in front of the clouds. And yeah, if you want to, if you're feeling super creative, you can actually, I'm gonna take this I'm going to color that red just so I can see it well. But I'm going to select the background, and I can actually come in here and erase this part of the ring to give it almost like it's flying out of the monogram kind of design. Again, I can come back and fill this in black. And yeah, if that's how we like it. Again, you guys can go in and make minor adjustments as you see fit. But from here, I would select this and unite all. All right, so when I go into the layers, I can see one compound path. That's all that's in this design is one compound path. Um, yeah, we also need to be mindful of, is anything here too small to cut? Anything that's too small to cut is going to be under 0.08. So I like to create a circle at 0.08 height and width. And I'll go in, move this around. It's like that's right there at the cusp. I might want to look at making that type of geometry a little bit thicker. Let me look down here. That's right at the cusp. I might want to make that a little bit thicker. Bring this down here as well, because I feel like this is going to be a little bit on the thin side, and it is. So again, I would make this area just the tiniest bit thicker so that we don't run into an issue where something's just too thin that it melts. So it's real easy to fix that. All I have to do is get my paintbrush tool again. And you see the size of my brush? Let's go ahead and increase that right there. You see that's a perfect fit. Um, so now when I come through here and make that line, just like so, that line there. I might even want to come in back here and just trace this, just so I know I'm good. Come over the top here. If you have a stylus on your computer, that really helps. I don't, so I'm just freehanding that with my mouse. It definitely is a challenge sometimes, but it does take a little bit of practice. So I'm gonna go in here and just thicken up a few of these clouds. Nothing here has to be perfect, but it also kind of gives these clouds a little bit better, a little bit of dimension. Instead of everything being the same line thickness, like I can take this off to the side here. Um, thicken that cloud up right about here. You guys don't have to love my designs. Really just trying to teach best practices and best principles in metal art design. So I don't even love this myself, but I am just trying to help teach. So just fatten that line up just a little bit. And whatever, you guys get it. So once I've done all of that, again, I want to remove my reference tool there. Um, I would select all of this and export this as a PNG image, and this is ready to load into My Easy Monogram. So let us know if you have any other questions or concerns, and thank you all for watching my video.